Thank you. Welcome to everyone to this extraordinary council meeting today. And I do want to start by acknowledging that we have got some rain happening across our region at the moment, and we will be updating as that event progresses, and today we will be doing our best to be as efficient and effective through this meeting so that we can be getting on with our lives. Some of our councillors need to be travelling. We have staff that need to be attending to that as well. So if we can just be mindful today of being just mindful about not repeating things, and we'll get into it and we'll have a good meeting. We'd had a karakia this morning, so that covers us for the day. Apologies, we have Councillor Somerville there appeared online. Councillor Forbes, I don't think is here at the moment, so we'll have an apology at least for lateness for Councillor Forbes. I will move that. Councillor McCall seconding, all in favour. Aye, against, carried. Confirming the agenda, which is just the one item, 5.1, declarations of interest as a standing item there. Matters for consideration, correspondence from the Minister for the Environment regarding the Land and Water Regional Plan. You will have read that, you've received that. It is a report that's been prepared by Richard. Richard, is there anything you wanted to draw our attention to?
Thanks, Gretchen. No, nothing specific. So obviously, following the last meeting, we have engaged with government officials, and the result has been the follow-up letter from the Minister received 26th of September that does set out ways in which the government can see ORC and the government working together, which was the indication that we got from the in-person meeting held a few weeks ago. I have prepared a paper which recommends that that option is carefully considered as part of your deliberations at the end of this month, and that you instruct staff accordingly to assess that properly and set out the advantages and disadvantages alongside the other options you will have as part of that meeting. I would point out that there isn't any detail there around the legislative mechanisms that may be available to support those specific Otago issues we talked about last time. It's too early for that, but what we have got is a clear undertaking in the letter that the government is prepared to work with ORC to ensure that those matters are addressed. So just acknowledging that those details are not part of this report, but the undertaking has been made in that letter. So happy to take any questions.
Councillor Laws.
I'm interested in your rationale, Richard, and I presume that of your staff in recommending option 2 for us today. Option one, sorry, for us today. In the paper that you've received, so the minister said this is what we're going to do. She's offered 3 essential bullet points. We'll talk about that later, but you've said that the reason you don't like option 2 is because it's not preferred as making the decision, in other words, to work with the minister in the way that she suggested, does not enable council to weigh up all of the options available to it. What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is that in order to make that decision, I would be recommending that the 23rd of October that will have all of the options, i.e. notify, a pause as recommended by the government, or not notify and not determine a pause, is included in that paper, along with an assessment of the advantages and disadvantages for consideration. And my recommendation is that that would be the most appropriate way to reach a decision on that matter.
Well, I mean, the follow-up to that is, so couldn't we have those things before the 23rd of October, and would not have been better to postpone this extraordinary meeting until those options were available to us?
We are not programmed to have those ready before the 23rd. They're being put into that paper on the 23rd. That's the current program to make that decision. When this, as we have done for previous correspondence, felt it was appropriate that we had an extraordinary meeting to discuss this offer. Those options are there. I've just put in the staff recommendation.
Right. So you will be adding a new, in the work that you're doing for the 23rd of October, does the letter of the 26th of September from the Minister, Penny Simmons, add anything at all to that work?
Yes.
What does it add?
So we now have some details around what working with the ORC on during what would be a short pause or a pause, as indicated in the minister's letter, what that would mean, and we can assess the advantages of that and any associated disadvantages. So it definitely adds more in terms of what will be presented in that paper.
And
prior to this, prior to this letter, we didn't have those details. So there is definitely more material there.
and in receiving the letter from the Minister of the 26th of September, in the second paragraph or third paragraph, it says, we propose the Otago Regional Council participate in targeted engagement on the review and replacement of the NPCFM between October and early 2025 ahead of public consultation. Can I ask you what you think that means?
So my understanding is that there will be certain parties who will be invited to take part in that early consultation as they shape up the NPSFM ahead of public consultation. And they're offering the opportunity for ORC to be part of that targeted group so we can understand what the impact might be on our draft plan.
So is it your understanding that the government are going to replace the NPSFM sometime, in early 2025 as a consequence? Because in the bullet points that you provided for the last meeting for us, after your meeting with yourself, Gretchen, and Lloyd, with the ministers, plural, you said that they are developing ideas for the new national policy statement. These could not be shared as they need to go to Cabinet, but they're working to a timetable of delivering by the middle of next year. Now, in this letter, it says early 2025. Are those
So two different things. So the middle of next year is the date by which they have indicated they will deliver.
They'll publish it, yeah.
The early 2025 is the date at which there will be information that the early information on the direction of the NPS that will be subject to public consultation in the second quarter of 2025. That's the program as I understand it.
And finally, in the letter, also in the second paragraph, it says, we, at the meeting in which I've just alluded to in the minister's plural office, it said, at that meeting, we offered to assist the council to align your plan with the new NPSFM in an efficient way of avoiding unnecessary cost on ratepayers. Now, the government think that there will be an unnecessary cost on ratepayers if it proceeds in its current guise without some sort of pause, presumably, or not. Has there been any quantification of that cost on ratepayers and how it is accrued?
No, there hasn't been, and the reason is that we don't have any indication of the direction the new NPS will take, because that's still subject to cabinet decisions. So we can't make an assessment of what changes, if any, would be needed to our draft plan if it had already been notified. So there's no way of quantifying that at the moment.
And here's my problem. You see, by the 20th, from now to the 23rd of October, Gracious, I guess this is for you too. It's only 20 days. No, it's less than 3 weeks. I'm struggling to know what information that you could acquire between the 3rd of October and the 23rd of October on the issue of costs that's going to make us any more cognizant when we make that decision on the 23rd of October. See, I think what you've just said to me is we don't know what the costs are because, but then I'm going to get that answer on the 23rd of October too, aren't I, Richard?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for clarifying.
Councillor Wilson, I think then we are.
Those questions focused on the NPSFN. Have we had any update, or are we going to consider reaching out about freshwater farm plans as well and the changes? I know that they've pushed pause, and I'm not quite sure what their plans are there.
So they're actively working on that replacement for the freshwater farm plan regulations, but we don't have, Joe might be able to provide a better update on dates.
Not too sure on dates, but we have staff members involved in the 2 work streams in terms of the advice that MFE is seeking from council staff around farm plans that are already in place and what industry assurance programs may look like. So there's 2 work streams that MFE are running on that. No, I haven't got the dates to hand, but they are prioritising that work stream, is my understanding.
Could it be part of the targeted? No, okay. Councillor Weir. Yeah, right.
Sorry, that is a good question. That's where I was going. Should we be asking? Is the other way to do that? Could we be asking to be part of that?
Yeah, we're involved through MF through the regional sector in that, and we are receiving those updates. So I'm fairly comfortable we've got a good handle on where that's going.
Okay. Council, Weir then no.
Is staff or your understanding in the letter is the offer for regional council to work with government on planning the new NPS, is that contingent on us pausing our plan, or are those two separate?
I'm not sure, but I'm going to make the assumption that it is contingent. I think that based on the messaging we've got, we would be very hopeful to think that should we notify, we will still receive an invite.
It hasn't been explicitly made, but that's the implication.
Councillor no.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Question for Richard, and it relates to recommendation 2. Has there been any consideration given to aligning any pause date with officials, ministry officials, so that we don't continue to go through another agonising debate about the same issues, so that if we do pause, and obviously we're going to have an option on the 23rd of October. So my point is, it would make a lot of sense to me if a pause date was aligned with the officials' ability to deliver information that gives us more confidence and certainty around the MPS and everything else.
Yeah, agreed. And the intent would be we would refine that as best we could. So obviously the indication in here is early 2025 for policy direction. We can work with officials to try and get that tight to a point where it can be included as a date indicative of how long that pause would be for if that was the option selected.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Wilson.
I think there are some other things that we could be asking for help with that haven't been offered, and I don't want to necessarily get into those details, although one is clearly on top of my mind. And I'm wondering what process we as councillors have to offer or suggest those. And I can, can I give an example? I think we've been all pleased with the speed in which the High Court gave a mediation process that hasn't been offered in the Environment Court, and providing that with the same person, getting a warrant from the government for the same person to be a judge in the Environment Court would be a very, very efficient and effective way for potentially some of the Environment Court appeals to be dealt with, in my mind. And that could be the sort of thing that we might ask for. I don't know if anyone else has got clever other ideas that might facilitate a quick process. We've all suffered the fraught nature of the freshwater, non-freshwater hearings process. I'm just wondering if those are things that we can bring up at any stage. And I think they're really helpful, bring them up as suggestions, but I'm not quite sure when that process is right.
Don't know if you're going to answer, Richard. Yeah.
Not today. No. Look, it's outside the scope of this paper. We're always open to receiving other ideas. I can't comment on that one. I don't know enough about that process, and we don't have the staff here today who can provide any commentary on the Environment Court mediations for the proposed regional policy statement. So, yeah, not something that is that has been canvassed by us yet in preparation for the paper on the 23rd.
Can I comment just on that matter? It's worthwhile reading the appeals for the non-freshwater parts of the RPS.
Yeah.
They're substantive and cover lots and lots of topics. So I think Kate's point is a very, very good one. It's something that we should be thinking about if we've got the ability to find some time to think about it and look for.
Yep. I think the answer was probably similar to me, which is why I looked at Richard, and that I probably the same. Don't understand the process for how a judge would be appointed as well to Environment Court, and whether or not it would be appropriate to be involved in. I don't know. I would imagine that Councillor Wilson probably knows the answer better than I do.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. So I can't really give an answer on that. And Richard's right that they haven't considered it as part of this paper. I guess though our council needs to consider smooth process wherever we can, don't we? So it's a point that's well made. Yep. Thank you. Councillor Callagher.
Thank you. I was going to ask the same question that Councillor Weir asked to you, Richard, and your response has surprised me a wee bit. That obviously to you, the gravity of the situation has been made quite clear from the minister. So you're able to say, well, that offer around Otago being able to work with the government is really on the table if this offer is accepted.
So just to be clear, that's an assumption I'm making. It's not something that I have any clarity over. But the discussion we have had with the ministers, and sorry to interrupt, but I've made the assumption based on the conversations we've had, which have been about opportunities for ORC to work with the government. If a pause were to be taken to enable our plan to align with the new NPS FM.
You've been in their physical presence, so I mean you're possibly the best to be able to advise the sort of the manner and tone of what they were saying. So do you think your paper fairly reflects that they have raised, because to me, the paper is almost saying, well, putting that aside, it's just an option to consider at the 23rd. But I detected a stronger position than that.
No, you would probably find that on the 23rd, that may be set out slightly more clearly, because it'll be part of the advantages and disadvantages, that that option may, and again, we can try and get some clarity before then, may disappear should it not be taken at that point in time. You're right, it's not included in here. Because the way I've structured the recommendations is, you can see I've gone a slightly different way. But based on the question Elliot asked, that's my feeling on this offer. We would do our best to try and get some confirmation so we could fully inform that paper, because it would be part of the advantages and disadvantages in council weighing up which option to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Metham.
Richard, you say that option 3 is not preferred as the offer received from the minister as a legitimate option. What makes it legitimate when you're saying it lacks clarity?
So my view is that an option has been presented which enables ORC to be involved in the early policy development for NPS, and that is something that should be considered. So when I say it's legitimate, I think while we don't have details about the legislative piece, there is enough detail in there about the NPS piece for me to be confident that it is a legitimate offer that this council should consider. So my recommendation is that it is considered.
This government doesn't have a particularly good track record in keeping its promises. So, I mean, this is an interpretation that you are placing on this option. Is it a personal...
So I'm a staff member and I'm not going there.
Fair enough, though, now we've got there's a place for debate, and even then, when we're bringing third parties into our own judgment, we need to be careful with what we're saying there. So yeah, thank you, and understand your response. Yes, I guess in terms of just the answer before to whether or not council would be able to participate in targeted engagement on the review and replacement of the NPS FM, and the time there is between October and early 2025, and obviously October the 23rd is near the beginning of that. But there was, as we've said before as well, discussion around whether or not the council could be involved for a decision to pause and understanding further where the government was heading as well. So I wouldn't say it was completely black and white on, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
I can try and clarify that as best I can ahead of the depending on what decision is reached today, I can try and provide the table greater clarity over whether or not the offer would still be on the table.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
But I'm sharing what I believe is the situation at the moment.
Yeah. Cool. Right, Councillor McCall.
Yeah, thank you. Richard, I was just wondering, in your discussions with people in MFE or whatever, has there been any discussion around the ministers working directly with our governance group, and whether they've got an open mind to what they may or may not be able to offer in excess to what's in the letter? Are they open to have an open discussion is what I'm asking.
Right. Look, I think that there would always be the opportunity to invite minister or ministers to have that discussion if there are other ways. What I took away from the meeting in Wellington, what I take away from the most recent letter is that there is a willingness to offer solutions. And if we've got solutions that are different to the ones they're offering, then that would be a worthy discussion to have.
And yeah, so that's good. I think that's an offer that I think we should be making, that we need to always have the door open. oh, this is a fair question. Do you think there's an expectation that we should pause our plan now, or is the expectation that we assess all information on the 23rd of October, which I think is what I understand?
Look, my sense is that the government would prefer a pause as soon as possible. My recommendation is that the appropriate time to do that for good decision making and the matters that I've set out in the report is the 23rd. But based on the previous correspondence we've received, the meeting that we attended, and my feeling is that a pause immediately is what they're seeking.
Councillor Laws, questions? Yep.
Just to clarify that, so prior to this letter being received, there were going to be two options on the 23rd of October. One was proceed with the plan and the other was not. Now there's a third option on the table as a consequence of this letter in your view, which is we're going to do a short pause and then proceed into that. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, I'm not. Yes, however, that when you describe those first two options, had we not had this letter, that pause option would have contained a framework around revisiting when the new NPS was available to us to make that assessment. So, you know, we would have been working potentially off the middle of next year as the timeframe the government are currently working towards. So there would have been a framework around that pause. What we've now got is a very specific option put in front of us by the minister that involves early engagement and an earlier time frame. So it's changed those options.
Let me get this right. The government is saying to us, and so I understand this properly, the government's saying to us, listen, you can come on at the ground floor, bring all of your experience and your research advice and your particular view of all the scientific and ecological information you've acquired for Otago, and you can be a part of creating the new national policies, freshwater statement on freshwater management. Is that what you're saying to me?
They are inviting us to be a part of the process. I don't know what we would bring to that process, how much influence we would have in the process, but we are being invited to be a part of that process.
Councillor Malcolm.
Would it be fair for me to say that on previous government initiatives, for instance, intensive winter grazing, freshwater farm plans, we have our staff, when involved in those groups, have been able to be part of a very good process and indeed influence parts of those sorts of processes?
Look, we have got some very good staff who get involved in all sorts of projects at a national level alongside our colleagues in the regional sector, and we do get the chance to influence policy direction, and farm plans would be an example. Winter grazing, we did some work when they did the sort of initial review of that set of winter grazing rules and made those amendments. So we have been involved in the past, and we usually involved as part of a regional sector group, but have a strong ORC presence.
And even as councillors, and I'm just thinking on the National Policy Statement of Commercial Forestry, where I was part of that group that we ended up getting, the final result was commercial forestry, but also carbon forestry into that descriptor, which was part of working with the government. So what I'm really saying is, knowing that we have a new NPSFM about to be delivered in a reasonably shortened time frame by the sound of it, or the advice of timeframes we've been giving, and so recommendation one says to me that we may be comfortable to actually notify without incorporating any of those changes, and to me that would be us not being at all fiscally prudent.
Yeah, we just need to have questions.
Yeah, it is going to be a question. So one, let's go back to the start. We know it's going to be delivered. if we know that the national policy statement is about to be changed and a new one delivered. We have had an offer to ensure that our ratepayers will not be put out of pocket. We've had an offer to be part of the development of the NPSFM, yet are you comfortable, and that appears from number 4 paragraph, that in fact we need to indicate that 4 is now to be part of that. So you are comfortable that we go to number 1 as opposed to number 2 option would be, which is an immediate pause.
That's why I'm recommending it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Weir would like to know if Councillor McCall was.
We'll do like see what he's moving before.
Three buses up
Councillor McCall, you happy to second the recommendations as a Russian there?
Have you taken the recommendations with, as written with option 1?
Yeah, start to include the option.
That's a recommendation already there, B, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, so just as written.
Yep.
Is there a draft response to the council to the Minister of the Environment?
Yes.
Oh, I haven't got that paper.
I'll get the attachments.
No.
It's on the back.
Oh, sorry. It is on the back.
There we go.
You're double-sided.
Right, Councillor Weir, you get to speak first if you would like to.
Sure, I mean, there's not much to say. It seems like a pretty easy decision to me. We're just bringing some more information for us to make the most informed choice possible on the 23rd. Doing anything else would either, discard a legitimate option as our chair has stated, or would make a preemptive decision before we've had all the information and met our obligations under the Local Government Act, including to consult with Mana Whenua on something like this. So I don't see any other option other than to get that information from the ministry and have it in front of us along with all of the other information on the 23rd.
Councillor Laws.
This is a fascinating discussion, a fascinating letter. I think the first thing we've got to recognise is why the minister sent us the letter. And the minister has sent us the letter because she's offering an off-ramp to the Otago Regional Council.
Yep.
So she's essentially saying, we're on a bit of a collision course at the moment, and it's inevitable there'll be a collision, and it's inevitable the IRC will lose. So I don't want that to happen. I want to work with you. I don't need to work with you because I can just offer you directives. But I want to offer with you, and I'm going to give you an off-ramp. And that is to come in at the ground floor and have a lot more say than you currently have or will ever have over a national policy statement that is going to affect every water user and anybody anywhere near any water in Otago for the future. It's an extraordinary offer really from a minister. It's an extraordinary offer of cooperation, and it's also, as I think was well characterised by the Otago Daily Times, as an olive branch. It says, right, okay, we've got to this stage. You know what we're thinking. We're concerned at your direction. Here's that offer. Because up until that letter, there were only 2 options that we were going to have on the 23rd of October, and they go like this. It was either adopt the draft land and water regional plan or not. It's really simple. And the not would have meant it stays essentially leaves on the table until the new national policy statement for freshwater management comes in, and we have to do it all again anyhow with the new underlying philosophies and policies that drive that particular statement, which we're going to have to do anyhow. The what else? A third option. They say, well, we'll just tie hoa essentially. Wait until the early new year, pause now, and work with us, and then you can in actual have this unique political offer of working with us and having your particular outlook, in actual fact, inform a great deal of national policy, which is an extraordinary offer, I would have thought, from a government minister. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I know that on the 23rd of October, I'm going to be no better informed than I am now. That's extraordinary. I've just had that confirmed by the Chief Executive. The costs associated with our draft and land and water regional plan and having to redo it, well, we'll be no better and we'll know no more in 20 days than we know now. So, and then as the Chief Executive has rightly pointed out, this is a letter from an officer, from a minister for now. Like, let's sort this stuff out now. You don't need to wait for another 3 weeks. Here's the olive branch, take it. Now, it's a bit like, if I give you a sort of a cultural reference, it's a bit like going to Marae and getting challenged, and then deciding, and when the wero or the particular piece of leaf is put or branch on the ground to see whether or not you pick it up, and say, I'm going to come back in 3 weeks. I'm going to go away. I'm not going to accept the challenge. I'm just going to leave it there for 3 weeks, which is extraordinarily rude. And I would have thought that's sort of the first shot in some future confrontation you're going to have. And that's what's been offered here by the minister. We either accept this extraordinary generous offer and save ourselves a lot of trouble, time, cost, expense, or we decide to move to the 23rd of October, and on the basis of votes that have been previously held around this table, we won't be leaving it on the table. We won't be pausing, we'll be adopting. And when that happens, the collision course will be set. Now, I'm happy to take the olive branch. I want us to get on the off-ramp. I want to work with central government. I'm happy to say, let's go option 1 today. Option 2 today, which is to accept the offer as set out in the letter from the minister and immediately pause the Land and Water Regional Work Programme and work towards it. And can I say this to those councillors who say, oh, listen, if we do that, the threat of the waterways is ironic, because the threat of the waterways would be immediate now. It's an act of nature rather than anything else, just but the threat to the waterways will be so bad that, even if we pause for the next 4 or 5 months and do this, fish will die, streams will dry up, irrigation wells will fall apart, entire communities will be devastated by environmental poor effects and things like that. It's of course a nonsense argument, but it seems to be the argument that's being promoted at the moment. So just wait. They've given us an option, early 2025. It's the right offer to do. But I'll tell you what, when and if this council says no today, in Wellington, they'll simply read that as a slap across the face. Well done, ORC. You've walked away from the challenge and you've decided to continue the confrontation. And I'm not prepared to be a part of that. Those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Councillor Laws. We have Councillor, what's next? Councillor Somerville.
Thank you very much. Look, I support these recommendations as they've been put. Let's not prejudge the decision we're going to make on the 23rd of October, but rather let's make that decision with the best possible information. And I believe we will have better information to make that decision by that date, including having heard what our mana whenua partners have to say. So I think that will be a meeting on that date, and let's keep open minds until then. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
I agree that this is, we started today. What did we start today with? We started the day with the Mayor of Dunedin wearing his "We're Fighting the Wellington" t-shirt on, wanting a hospital. I cannot believe that 2 councils are so intent on getting so upset with the government at the moment in many ways. And I know which battle I really, really want to fight most at the moment. And I don't think the risk to the health of the environment in Otago is that great, that is this one that I want to battle the government with. I would really want to be putting my energy into getting a better hospital in Dunedin. So I find it all really peculiar. I don't know that we will still have on the table on the 23rd of October an offer if we don't accept this now. Having just received that advice from the CE, this isn't an unlimited offer, I don't think. I think the CE told us that he thought they wanted us to say pause now. I sat through a council that did exactly what the previous minister asked us to do. As hard as it was something that was difficult because I knew some of the legislation wasn't great, but I cowboyed down to a higher authority on the basis that that was the best way to democratically use our positions in that context. I just want to pull out a wee bit about the process come the 23rd. If we don't pause this, and that is no longer an option, or it is, if we decide to notify, it isn't just fixing things in a process similar to fixing the land and water plan or anything we're finding wrong with it now. It is a litigious and costly consultant required process with the fresh water commissioners. It isn't like just doing the low level resource consents of the past. It is highly complex and it is going to be under the process with the RPS still unresolved. I could support this if we were thinking or had time to think or were supporting those other conversations we need to have with the government. There are many of them. The drafting of the previous legislation has left us all bamboozled by some terms like wetland, natural land wetland, natural wetland, bed. What is a bed? What isn't a bed? There's so many of them. And yet we're not actually getting around the table and saying, how can we ask that? The situation of the environment court taking a lot longer to resolve mediation until I think November 2025, we were told, is just really, really difficult. We need to be looking as collaboratively and together at a constructive way of working this forward and working with this government to say, we're not even going to listen to you at the moment, we'll put you off for 3 weeks. We don't think this getting a letter from the minister is really, really important after all. I think is a really dangerous position, not only for us around the table, and I don't care about that, but I do care about the people of Otago being served well by the people around this table. And I think we need to start building bridges with this government. It's hard work, but we actually have to start finding ways that they can help us. And we don't seem to be giving ourselves time to do that. And I think that's really, really frustrating, but really sad. And sad, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Scott, you were next.
Cool. Councillor Laws says that this is an extraordinary generous offer. You know, the alternative view might be quite simply that it's too good to be true, or it's simply a delay into 2025. But nevertheless, I will reluctantly support option 1, being one of a number of options considered on the 23rd of October. 23rd of October is the day. However, I make it clear that at this point of time, I do not support any notification delay. In my view, Council is ready to notify now. Council has constructively worked with the community, mana whenua, and councillors through numerous workshops. A legal review confirms that engagement and consultation requirements have been met. We have carefully considered the RPS and other documents. Council has significantly considered and evolved this plan. So I say it again, yes, I will reluctantly support option 1. 23rd of October is the day for a decision of notification. Thank you.
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. I'm trying to picture the olive tree that the minister, I guess, had in her office, and branch by branch has been torn off it and handed to the ORC. And then we get to this letter, which is really what's left of the poor old olive tree, which has been ripped out of its pot and handed to the ORC. And really what this letter says is that there's nothing more left when it comes to olive. It's a generous offer. It's possibly not available to other councils around the country. It's recognising the fact that we are quite advanced with our plan. But it is saying a short pause. I mean, the key statement, and this is the very last paragraph, where it says about unnecessary duplication and cost to Otago ratepayers. And that is what the minister wants to avoid. And to me, that's fair. You look at MPSFM is going to change. We've got slope changes currently changing. We have freshwater farm plan changes. So there is our plan notified on the decision notified on the 23rd, as Councillor Scott has indicated he'll be voting for. When it's notified, our ratepayers, our stakeholders, have to enter into battle on the basis of what's been notified, with all those changes to arrive at some point upwards. So to me, the offer is sound. We put ourselves at huge risk if we don't take option 2 as opposed to option 1. So I won't be supporting as has been moved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to speak? Councillor Meakin and then Noon.
Look, I'd like to be able to support this option if I could take it at face value, but on Saturday I was on a march with 35,000 people because the government had backtracked on a promise they had made to the residents of Otago around a hospital. How can I take them seriously if they're prepared to do that after listening to professional advice, getting evidence, and having informed advisory groups advising them around the hospital? Now, we're getting the same sort of offers made here. I mean, we're being asked to participate in a process, but it lacks clarity. It doesn't seem like a legitimate option. And I actually just can't trust this government to keep its promise in any of this. Once bitten, twice shy. I can't support this.
Just a note that this paper isn't on the hospital and we're not debating that. So, okay, but yep. Thank you, Councillor Noon.
Yeah, like it or not in life, there's often a big brother or a big sister, and sometimes you just got to bow and scrape. That's life. But anyway, I've become a bit of a hoarder during this process, and I have collected all the legal advice that we've had over the last 9 months.
We're not going to be talking about legal advice that was confidential. I'm just double checking as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you allow me to finish, because I've got
Yeah, I just don't want you to leap into confidential legal advice. Yeah.
I'm holding some confidential legal advice here that I won't refer to in word. But what my point is, I've collected a lot of advice in the last 9 months, and we've all heard about the legal advice, which we can't talk about. However, what we do know is that the word like uncertainty and the importance of alignment with changes in policy came through clearly when we've talked in the open forum about the risks of notifying too early. Did I manage to get out of that one, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's really important about alignment, and I think that what we've heard probably in more recent times, once again, without going into it, is that it even has become a little bit more murkier in the last, what we've been told about the appeal process, without getting into detail, what we know about the non-freshwater appeals. So those two are running separately, but it's certainly not clearer in our minds how those are going to land. And once again, it comes back to the wise advice that we were given quite some time ago. And I won't repeat his name, but we all know the professor I'm referring to. But I just think there's too much uncertainty at this point in time. So the option to pause seems to be the logical step now. I can't support the motion that's on the table for that reason. And I think we owe it to our community to take the knowledge that we have, not only in a legal sense, but the most up-to-date knowledge that we've been learning about in the last week or so.
Thanks, Councillor Noon. No others?
Got to reply then.
Yeah, I guess I might speak and, sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't realise you hadn't spoken, Councillor Malcolm.
Yeah, look, I'm absolutely astounded really, and I hope those 35,000 people do come walking back to us and say, why haven't you listened to the government? And I hope those 35,000 people also walk down the road and see Mr. Hodson and his group that mucked up the Otago Hospital. But we're not talking about that. We have two documents in train at the moment, which is our RPS, which we were told, I think it was in 2019, to make sure that was ready and up and going and sorted before you even got down to your land and water plan. That still is being worked through and going through its process. And the key document that formulates our land and water regional plan is the National Policy Statement for Freshwater Management. We know that that is being reviewed, and regardless of whatever form it will take when it is completed, that will become the document that we'll have to take notice of for our land and water regional plan. We have been given the opportunity to take, because of the position we are in, to take a wee breath and say, let's just wait until that happens. It's going to cost us nothing because they're going to support our ratepayers and ensure that it doesn't cost, and we'll hold them to that. And then we'll be able to incorporate the changes of that freshwater farm of the National Policy Statement on Freshwater Management into our land and water plan, and only have to do that once. And at no extra cost to our ratepayers, because we can hold people to those statements. So I'm astounded. Well, actually, I'm astounded that in fact we're even having a meeting today when today's meeting, I'm told, is because we haven't got all the information we need. But in reality, pretty clear from that letter that we should be pausing right now, taking the offer and getting on with helping the government form the new national policy statement. We should be stopping.
Thanks. I might just quickly comment that I appreciate and as we all do, we appreciate this letter. I can see that Councillor McCall is also going to speak. I don't need to be the last speaker because Councillor Weir has a right of reply as well. Anyway, it is great to have this letter, to have gone to Wellington, to have talked about working together. My take on that meeting was that there was discussion towards the end that we needed to understand each other, and we needed to understand each other's positions and to be able to trust. And to do that, we were to work together to be able to understand more about what the NPSFM was going to be looking like, understanding that Otago has some very significant issues that we are needing to deal with through land and water plan development, and that those are costly, and not getting that right is costly, and the 6AA and 701s that are often pointed to, but ensuring that the process is smooth for everyone isn't totally straightforward. You might pause and find that actually there are unintended consequences, or there is duplication that comes from having to go back and do the process again as well. There's a number of things that we need to consider. So the letter does say, and it's great, I want to stress again that really appreciate this letter and the chance to work together. It says, if you need to delay your water plan, we understand this could have unintended consequences, particularly for water take and discharge consent holders and applicants. If that eventuates, the government will work with you to make sure unintended consequences do not negatively impact resource users or unnecessarily burden ratepayers. So it doesn't take all the costs and give them to Wellington. It says that we will, there might be some necessary costs on ratepayers. There could be costs. We all need to understand what we're getting into together. And as we heard before, we haven't actually got concrete, not evidence, any concrete proposals on 6A or 7 even, and there are other things as well, as Councillor Wilson's pointed out, that are really important to us going forward. I think this is fantastic. We do need to work together. We do need to consider this really seriously. I think all our minds need to be open on the 23rd, and I've said that before. But yeah, I'm on making the decision with all of the information available to us. on the 23rd, Cam. Right, councillor McCall.
Thank you, Chair Robertson. First of all, I'd just like to thank the Minister for her letter, and having been at the meeting and at the meeting if there was an outcome to come from the meeting, it was that there was a desire from both sides to actually work together to create a relationship. And I thank the Minister for actually reaching out and at the end of the day writing us a letter. And so I see that as very much the first step that we can now build on and start to build a relationship at ministerial level as to how our plan progresses over the next 3 weeks and going forward. The letter is really good, but it's not like a clear cut letter. It doesn't actually say how we can deal with the issues around the 6A, 7A. It doesn't actually say how we're going to be involved with helping with the development of the NPS. It doesn't actually say. I think it would be preemptive to think that we're going to be getting a special position in that role. It might be that we're being elevated to be with other councillors being involved. I think there's really a lot more room where we can get in. We need to get into a room together and actually talk through some more stuff to see, just to make sure that we all understand what's actually on the table. And as Chair Robertson says, we still have some issues in front of us as well around what happens if we do delay, then we have to backtrack. There's costs wherever you look, and at the end of the day, I don't believe that this letter gives us enough information to be able to make a decision to pause our plan right here and right now. But the letter gives us a pathway to start to gather more information to put in front of us on the 23rd. We also need to recognise that we need to talk with our mana whenua partners, because at the end of the day, they've been with us right through the process, and that's how partnerships work. We're certainly not going to go out without talking with them first, in my opinion. So I guess I'm just really holding the line where I've been the whole time is we've got the 23rd of October. The government knows that date. We know that date. Everybody's known that date is when we're going to make a decision. And it's our role as councillors and the councillors to get all the information that we can up to date on that date so that we can make an informed decision on that. So thank you very much. And we look forward to continuing the cordial into the future.
Thanks. Councillor Weir.
Yeah, there's a reason in my initial comments that I didn't raise any of the many arguments for why we might want to notify the plan or not pause and delay, and that's because that's not actually what we're discussing today. We're discussing a response to the minister, and we're discussing bringing her offer to the table so that we can consider it in the suite of other options and all of the costs and benefits when they are in front of us on the 23rd of October. I understand the arguments for pausing the plan, and we'll certainly not have anything against any of the councillors who may end up, and certainly wouldn't even rule myself out from any of that. We wouldn't want to predetermine ourselves, but to make such a call today and by not voting for option one would be making that call would be I would say disregarding the proper process that's laid out in front of us by the Local Government Act, and would be a dereliction of those duties for us to make those informed decisions with an open mind, as we can only do on the 23rd of October.
Thank you. So you've moved, and we've got the 3 recommendations there. We might take the first one, noting the report on its own. So I'll put that all in favour. I against carry. Oh, was there a no there?
Yeah.
Can you just have a division, Madam Chair, on
Yeah.
number one as well. You're getting
Sorry.
really good at these.
Could you put that up on the screen?
Oh, sorry, spotted up. Yeah.
He asked for a division.
If you think.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you say it's
No, no, no,
division,
it's-
sorry.
So
Yeah.
what I said was, how about we do the divisions of the whole three?
Not worthy of noting, you don't know.
Okay, if you pulled a division, sorry, I'll,
No,
we'll go to
it
a
wasn't
division.
until after you had already put number one, but in light of not everyone voting in one
No.
direction, it might.
No, it's the
We've
report.
already done it, yeah, so, and it, passed, sorry, if it was afterwards, then I've already put it, sorry, councillor Noon, yeah.
Are you going to take people who voted against?
Yeah, we can record them, absolutely, yep. So we got councillor Callagher, councillor Malcolm and councillor Noon against and wishing to be recorded, yep. Thank you.
So, two on its own.
Yeah, we'll take the rest, by division.
Together.
We'll take them separately.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay. Councillor Forbes,
Yes.
councillor Callagher,
No.
councillor Laws,
Mm.
councillor Malcolm,
No.
councillor McCall,
Yes.
councillor Methven,
Yes.
councillor Noon,
No.
councillor Scott,
Yes.
councillor Somerville,
Yes.
councillor Weir,
Yes.
councillor Wilson,
No.
councillor Robertson.
Yes.
Secret 7 versus the famous 5.
7.
We're not being secret.
Yeah,
5.
it's too late now, mate. You've got the name.
Right, sorry, that one was, passed. Right, if you could just stop making comments, that would be handy, thanks. Oh,
It's gone now.
They're leaving at the moment.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this is number 3. Councillor Forbes.
This is for number 3, is that right?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Councillor Callagher.
No.
Councillor Laws.
No.
Councillor Malcolm.
No.
Councillor McCall.
Yes.
Councillor Methven.
Yes.
Councillor Noon.
No.
Councillor Scott.
Yes.
Councillor Somerville.
Yes.
Councillor Weir. Councillor Wilson.
No, sorry.
Councillor Robertson.
Yes. Passed. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
7, 5.
Yeah, thank you.
Say that with the universe.
Okay, so we have,
Sorry. There is the other matter, and I'm sorry, I just don't know where we can facilitate or get information that we think may help the process to the report on the 23rd. Now, I gave one example, I do have others. I am trying my best to get a good process that is as good as we can get, and I don't know how we can influence that. Is that a motion today that we ask for those sort of things to be added, or do we just email the CE and chair?
yeah, yeah. You can't really give a motion on unclear things that aren't part of the paper, but we can have emails through with things that would assist the process going smoothly, and Richard's just said that would be fine, so.
Can I
Send
just,
them through, yeah.
can I just clarify with you, Madam Chair, on the 23rd of October, there'll be a formal council meeting and will be only the one item, is that correct? No?
So we've got we're just working on that at the moment. There are 3 or 4 other papers we need to bring to October, but they'll be, and Amanda's saying, because it might be a few more than that, they'll be in the morning block, and then we've blocked out the whole afternoon.
From 1 p.m.
From 1 p.m. for the land and water paper, but we do have some other matters we need to get council decisions on.
Okay, and then when the council paper comes to us on that 1 o'clock on that 23rd of October, is the item is, so the only options are going to be the items that we've discussed today. There aren't, so there's one issue that leads to that decision of those 3 options. Is that correct?
That's as I understand it, yes.
Thank you very much.
Formal decision to notify or not, yeah. Right, thank you everyone, and for bearing with that slightly off paper discussion there, but good to have that cleared up. We have got clear towards the end, no worries, and then yeah, we all need to get into importantly checking on our communities and getting through this next 24-hour period and heavy rain. Kia tau te rangi Māori e, ki runga i ngā iwi o te ao. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Well,
Sir as well.
So you, are you